Since 1996, the Loan Market Association has set the benchmark for the European, African and Middle Eastern syndicated loan markets. Its Managing Director, Claire Dawson, speaks with IFLR about the association's achievements and plans for the future. Thank you very much for meeting with IFLR today, Claire. The first question is, the LMA was created 16 years ago to help develop Europe's secondary loan market, and now its standardised documents provide the backbone to Europe's syndicated loan market. So how did the LMA's mandate develop to the point it's at today?
I think really in response to what the market was looking for, and in particular by making sure that we engaged with the key market practitioners and the other stakeholders in the business. So obviously originally when we first started doing primary documentation, we had discussions with the Association of Corporate Treasurers, and they've remained involved in our investment grade document drafting ever since then. And as we've moved into different product areas, we've certainly made every effort to make sure that we have all the key players in those markets engaged in the projects. And I think that means that the documents that we actually produce are relevant to the market, and people feel that they have been able to be involved in the process and therefore want to actually use them.
Of course, some countries don't have standardised loan documents. I guess the US is a good example. I mean, by way of example, how has the LMA documentation helped improve lending practices or shape lending practices throughout Europe?
I think even though we obviously only have documentation under English law and a couple of other continental European jurisdictions, we've always tried to make sure that the documentation can be fairly easily adapted to use right across the region. And I think that means that we've helped get the concepts that are in our documents accepted more widely. And so even if people aren't necessarily using the actual LMA standard form in its template version, they'll be familiar with the sorts of things that we feel should go into a loan agreement, and therefore will be more willing to look at including them if they're doing something maybe under local law.
Okay. On that note, the LMA has supported the African Loan Market Association and I understand Russia's recent efforts towards standardisation. Do you expect more countries to make similar moves, and if so, will the LMA be involved?
I think it's possible. I think obviously we've seen some of the bigger jurisdictions such as Russia and South Africa look to come up with more standardisation. I don't think necessarily every jurisdiction will want to do that. We're always willing to help people who are trying to spread standardisation and bring documentation more in line with international standards. But I think in terms of how we see our bigger picture role right across the market, we would certainly see that for people who want to be active on the international market, then English law or possibly one of the major jurisdictions would remain to be what they would choose in order to get investors from right across the region.
Okay. Now, beyond documentation, the LMA obviously has other activities, so advocacy, guidelines and education among others. How have these contributed to market standards as well? How important are they?
Well, as you can imagine, our advocacy role has been increasingly important over the last several years. And I think that one of the things we feel we've helped to do is to make sure that regulators are aware of some of the unintended consequences of regulation. A lot of the regulation hasn't really been intended to target the loan market at all. It's been looking at other products, but it's had the potential to affect banks and financial institutions' ability to lend. And that's one of the things that we've really tried to highlight to regulators to make sure that they're aware of the knock-on effects of some regulation. I think in terms of the education work that we do, we work very hard to make sure that right across the region people are aware of all the issues that they need to know about when they're making decisions to lend, the types of regulation that could affect a transaction throughout the life of a facility, and also really to make the region seem like one market as opposed to a series of fragmented markets.
And so how do you see Europe's syndicated loan market changing? Do you see it becoming more integrated in that sense? And how will the LMA's mandate change in accordance with that?
I think fundamentally the loan product and the market will stay the same in the sense that it provides a good source of financing for underlying economic activity of the corporate sector. But I think certainly you're likely to see different types of investor coming into the market. I think it's possible we'll see banks coming from some of the newer markets such as China and even some of the African banks may start to get involved, actually lending in the syndicated loan market more widely. And I think similarly you'll get new sorts of borrower from newer markets. And one of the things which we're very focused on is looking particularly to Africa, but also to some of the growing economies where we think that there will be more activity and more opportunities for lenders right across the board, to make sure that the LMA standards are widely recognised and that we can help people when they want to get active on the international sphere.